Welcome back, everyone. Now, today I want to speak to you about a really disturbing report in the Daily Mail. I mean, I'm not a big lover of the Daily Mail, but this story obviously is correct, it's credible, and it's even more disturbing. And the headline reads, Headteacher removed the word sinister from Southport killer Axel Rudakubana's education plan after mental health workers accused her of racially profiling a black boy with a knife. And it goes on, a head teacher removed the word sinister from the Southport killer's education plan after mental health workers accused her of racially profiling a black boy with a knife. Axel Rudakubana was enrolled at the Acorn School in Ormskirk, Lancashire, aged 13. After being expelled from mainstream education for taking a knife in the class. Jesus Christ, weren't the red flags with this lad there a long time ago? Did this even ever have to goddamn happen? It goes on, head teacher Joanne Hodson told the public inquiry investigating his crimes that from his first day, she realised the teenager was very high risk. In an email to all her staff, she said Rudakubana needed to be regularly searched for knives because he hadn't displayed any emotion or remorse and was very high risk. However, later, Miss Hodson said she agreed to remove the word sinister and comments referring to Rudakubana as a cold and calculating individual from an education plan after mental health workers accused her of racially profiling him. She said the criticism shut her up and closed her down professionally. What is wrong with these people? His colour was irrelevant. The kid was an absolute fruitcake. What kids take knives to school like that and then basically freak out the teacher enough to be almost, it seems that she was frightened of him. She obviously had picked up on this kid's personality and he was dangerous and she was right. And people accused her of racism, like that was more important than what this little bastard might have gone on to do later on in life, and which he did. Miss Hodson described a memorable first meeting when she asked Rudakubana why he had taken a knife into his previous comprehensive. He looked at me in the eyes and said to use it. She said, "This is the only time in my career that a pupil has said this to me or behaved in a manner so devoid of any remorse." But because his skin was brown, the mental health workers wanted them to play it down. Well, they've got blood on their hands. She said she was surprised that his parents, who were also in at the meeting, didn't flinch at the comment and simply accepted his explanation. They believed their son was a good boy whose bad behaviour was a consequence of him being previously bullied and his actions were someone else's fault. Mrs. Hodson said, "Where have you heard that one before?" But the teacher said she was so worried that she sent an email to all of her staff saying Rudakubana was a highly unusual pupil. Wasn't she right? The most unusual I had experienced during my career. This woman deserves a bloody award, not to be shut down. She went on, at Acorns, we educate and support young people with a range of complex needs. However, I had never come across a pupil like Rudakubana. He was incredibly difficult to read and had an unusual energy and was unpredictable. This kid should have been in a home, let alone a school where he's being treated with more kid gloves. Total failure of the system. But that's actually not his fault. That's the fault of social services and the fault of people like the mental health workers who needed to give him a little bit of a break because his skin's darker than everyone else's. It goes on, there was a sinister undertone and it was difficult to build a rapport. He had no respect for authority and generally a lack of respect for other pupils and staff. He was insistent that his views alone were correct and everyone else was wrong. There was never any sense of remorse or accountability for his actions. Those features are, in my view, extraordinary. Rudakubana was enrolled at the Acorn School in October 19, But within weeks, his behaviour was flagged by staff as concerning. He started looking up school shootings online, making shocking statements and threatening pupils and staff. And she said he had a visceral sense of dread that he would do something to one of his peers. It felt like he was building up to something, she said. This could have been avoided. It felt like something was going to happen. This kind of level of agitation and the direct challenges to staff and the way he was with other pupils, it felt like every day it was building and building and building. What the hell went on here? Why wasn't this dealt with from the very beginning? In fact, those people that suggested that she lay off and remove words from her reports because he was a young black boy, they've got a lot of questions to answer and they should have a lot of guilt on their conscience. This is absolutely vile. Who gives a goddamn toss about the boy's colour? Doesn't matter if he was very pale, light brown, dark brown. It doesn't matter. His actions were what were concerning, not the colour of his goddamn skin. She goes on, I was aware of that he'd taken knives into school and I was worried that he was going to bring something to our school and do something similar at our school. But in the end, Rudakubana, who was being referred to at the inquiry by his initials, attacked a pupil at his former school instead. He travelled to the Range High School in Formby on December the 5th, 2019, where he attacked another student with a hockey stick. He was also found with a knife in his bag. The whole system here, the entire system, the police, the schooling, the board of directors, you name it, anyone that came across this boy and allowed him to continue to walk around in society, quite clearly a very disturbed and dangerous individual. Well, unless we get to grip with this absolute nonsense, I'm afraid this is going to happen again. When will people learn? And it's the liberal lefties are the precise people that would have left this monster on our streets to do what he eventually did. They should all hang their heads in bloody shame, and every single one of them are partly responsible for a lot of the things that goes on in this country and for people getting away with it. By then, the Acorn School had already referred Rudakubana to the government's counter-terror programme, Prevent. So where were they in all this? The referral was formally considered on December the 13th, but MI5 did not believe he met the threshold for opening a security service investigation because no terrorist or domestic extremist ideology was identified. They then had no further involvement. Well, maybe if they'd gone round to have a look in his bedroom, they'd have found the goddamn evidence, right? Because that's what they found after he killed those three little beautiful girls. Again, people not doing the job properly, they're goddamn paid for. And if I see him angry, I am angry because those three little girls could and should still be alive today. And it gets even worse. A second Prevent referral was made by the school around a year later, on February the 1st, 2021, over post Rudakubana had made about Colonel Gaddafi, the former Libyan leader, on Instagram. Then a third referral was made a few weeks later on April the 22nd, 2021, when Rudakubana had web pages open about the London Bridge attack in class. Is that not a sign, Prevent, that he was looking into domestic terror? He was also discussing the IRA, MI5, and the conflict between Israel and Palestine. There's a goddamn surprise. But each time his case wasn't considered serious enough for further investigation and it was closed. Jesus Christ, what is going on up and down our country? How many more Axel Rudakubanas are there out there? This is scary beyond belief. Miss Hodson said the school did not believe it was the right place for Rudakubana from the beginning. At least this woman had some bloody sense. She was doing the best she could, and fair credit to her. But even after the attack at the range, when she hoped other agencies would step up and help them manage the risk Rudakubana presented, she said nothing was done. We were literally left holding the baby. Rudakubana was not allowed to return to the Acorn School because of the attack at the range, but when the pandemic struck in March 2020, No decision had been made about his future education. He had not been to school for more than 2 years when he killed Bebby King 6, Elsie Stankham 7, and Alice da Silva Aguirre 9, and attempted to murder 10 others at a Taylor Swift themed dance class in Southport on the 29th of July last year. The inquiry at Liverpool Town Hall continues. I suggest this inquiry is a complete and utter waste of time. Unless they're going to start bringing these bastards to book, these people who were ignored, who didn't do their job properly, who failed to do their job, because they didn't want to upset anyone. They wanted to be woke and make sure they used all the right terms. These people have blood on their goddamn hands, and we will never rid our country of these monsters until people start to wake up and deal with these issues at the root and not when it's too late.